episode 2 of the Flashlight with me, Mark, and
I'm Keith. Good to see everybody around today. Well, whoever's around today. We didn't get too many questions on our Twitter. Well, actually, by too many, I mean none. So we'll see what happens throughout the day. A lot of people, I'm sure, enjoying some beautiful weather today and probably getting ready for some playoff hockey with the Rangers in Washington coming up at 3 o'clock. But aside from that, how are you doing this week, Webb?
I'm doing all right. I figured this would be a good time, especially since it's a bit of a lull, to talk about our own, history with the Islanders and following the team. I've mentioned it before, but God only knows I don't remember when I mentioned stuff. And we have so many new people on Lighthouse Hockey. So I originally started following the team in '93, just at the perfect time for the great victory against the Penguins and the complete collapse and everything. Oh my God! So basically, I've pretty much been in hell almost my whole time as an Islanders fan, except for that first year. I did some writing way back in the day for MikeMustGo.com, and then I just, when I got my own personal blog, not so, 3 years ago now, I posted a bunch of anti-Mike Milbury stuff, and when I started posting on Lighthouse Hockey, Dom found that stuff, and eventually he was like, "Oh, why don't you come in? You really know what you're talking about," and you guys have been stuck with me ever since. How about you, Keith?
Long time ago. I became, I guess, a hockey fan and an Islander fan back in the late '70s, early '80s. I'm a little bit older, probably, than a lot of the guys that write for Lighthouse Hockey. I'm 37. I'm going to be 38. So I was young in my formative years. My father started watching. We had the good old-fashioned sports channel, Jigs and Ed broadcasts, and I started playing deck hockey at around 6 or 7 years old. I actually was at my mother's house just a week or two ago, and got a picture of me wearing the Drive for 5 T-shirt when I was about 10. So yeah, we had started playing. Everybody in the neighborhood was an Islander fan. Playing deck hockey. There was already in existence an Islander team, which was pretty annoying, so I don't know whose idea the sick joke it was, but they decided to go with being the Rangers instead, which really hurt everybody's soul for quite a while. And I remember everybody on the team really, picked their numbers based on what Islander numbers were there. I was a little devastated because Bossy was already gone. I ended up with Bourne. I was 14 for most of my young career, so really started from there, and I've been in and out of hockey fandom with the way the Islanders have been. '93 was an outstanding year, unbelievable. That year I met actually Pierre Turgeon and David Pollock at some kind of breakfast somewhere, probably in a Marriott. But yeah, I go way back. It was an amazing time. Not that I can remember much of it, but how excited people were. I mean. My grandmother, for God's sake, was probably in the 60s or 70s at the time. My uncles used to bring her to games. They lived right around the corner from the Coliseum, and watching her freak out when Gordy Lane got into fights. That was her guy. He fell in love with Gordy Lane. I think he touched her shoulder once, nearly melted. Good times. Good times. We have a lot of stories like that. I remember we did that. Somebody did a fan post of how you got here on Lighthouse, and there's some really interesting stories. It's amazing that we do have as many young fans as we do, considering how bad the team's been for a while. And your thing, the New York Islanders fan map, was very interesting too. Where if you join Lighthouse Hockey, you can kind of how you got here and where you live, and just the dimensions and proximity that people have gone now. We have people Canada, Sweden, everywhere. It's amazing.
Yeah, all over the world. What's interesting is that now that you mentioned that, you grew up in a neighborhood where everybody was Islander fans. I had the exact opposite, where I grew up in a neighborhood where almost everybody was Ranger fans. And it was hell. I mean, my Islander equipment took such a beating. My fish stick jersey had the Gordon Fisherman ripped off. They purposely, I had a helmet that had an Islanders logo on it. It looked like one, I can't remember whose helmet it looked like, but it was a really nice looking helmet. What happened was it was done cheaply, so they had plastic screws instead of metal ones. And the guys found this out, and they started targeting the screws on the helmet with their shots. And eventually, they broke all the screws one by one until the face mask was able to flip open. And the other thing? I keep actually meaning to make a post about it, asking people, did you ever stop following the Islanders for a while? Because I did. Dom was mentioning the other day how after Milbury was still around following the lockout, he just could barely watch that season. I stopped watching, I don't know, when they traded away for Yashin, and they just brought in all those spent all that money. I just knew, it worked for a season, but in the long run, that's never how you build hockey teams. How often, for most of the 90s, there always seemed to be some team where somebody team had a ton of money, put in a whole bunch of veteran free agents, and then at the trade deadline, they were in last place, and they were trading the whole team away to teams heading towards the playoffs. For me, it was definitely the Yashin trade that finally did the Islanders. And it wasn't even because I thought Yashin was going to be a bust. It was just, these aren't the Islanders I've been following for the last 6 years.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing about the Yashin thing is, to some degree it was necessary. Probably the wrong guy. And given that point in time, I guess you couldn't fault Milbury too much. It was, as much as I'd love to say, the team needed something. The wrong pieces were sent, obviously, and that's unfortunate. But yeah, I definitively fell off the Islander wagon for quite a while. One of I think the bigger things that got people away from it. This happened throughout my whole family. Now I have two Ranger fan brothers. It's unfortunate. We're learning to live with each other. But what happened was we kind of, we didn't have a lot of money growing up, and due to that little lucrative television deal, Sports Channel was an expensive extra, to see the Islanders. And what ended up happening was the Rangers were televised free, and the Islanders were not. And that was the only hockey we could watch for quite a while. So my brothers, started watching that. A little younger than me, so they weren't as well shaped, I guess. And that's the story goes. But you wonder how much that happened with other people too. Obviously, Coliseum itself is not really all that accessible a lot of times, due to the traffic and what have you on Long Island. So a lot of people do rely on watching on TV. If you can't get it, or it costs extra, you could see losing some fans that way.
It was. I remember during the. I think it was the end of the 99. It might have been. Yeah, it was the end of 99. So it was the 98-99 season. Fox Sports just started coming around, and they had bought Sports Channel, which is what the Islanders will always broadcast where I was too. And they ended up. They weren't on the package plan for. Stand on cable. So instead you had to pay $4.99 a day to get Fox Sports New York. At the time, so if you wanted to watch 5 Islander games, it was 25. 5 Islander games in a month. That was $25 right there. So I definitely think that hurt them.
They didn't have a different package. It was by day.
It was by day. I'm telling you, I crossed my heart. Everything else. Fox Sports New York had just started. And the Staten Island cable had them as an by-day package. You could buy it for the day. It was pretty much pay-per-view, and it was $5.
Wow. Yeah, that's and that's insane. When you consider the record and the product on the ice and all the problems that were there, who wants to pay that kind of money? That's outlandish. And and it's, the unfortunate part of a lot of this stuff is somewhere along the line. It's such a shame that whoever was making the business dealings really sent them up the river, and pretty much they're held hostage. This is the first year this year where they had access to the concession and parking revenue. The TV deal. When somebody can make it so that you have to pay $5 per game to watch a game, nobody's going to win. Nobody's going to win. Who wants to pay for advertising for a team that nobody watches because it's expensive? And then you know what I mean? It's the cycle of taking away revenue, and you wonder why the teams themselves were reluctant to spend money at any given point to get players, which would break them out. It's a cycle of despair. Is really what it is.
Yeah, it was an amazing cycle. So talking about they're on the winners, the coaching changes this week for the Islanders. Capuano gets what everybody expected him to get by now. I mean, he could not have done a more amazing job with a team that was more of a mess. I mean, 6 goalies, all the defense went up and down, leaning on Travis Hamonic and Andrew McDonald. I don't know if you remember this, but in the beginning of the season, there were people saying that McDonald was going to be on the farm to start the season because of the number of defensemen. I mean, they had Hillen starting over. People predicting Hillen starting over McDonald. I'm not going to be crazy enough to say Bruno, but there were people who weren't expecting him to stick around with the team and be on the farm, which I thought was crazy at the time. And now him and Hamonic were just eating up minutes, and the best defensive pairing we had almost all year.
It might be the best defensive pairing we've had in 10 years. Really?
Yeah.
Striping in the lineup, that's nice, but his partner was Bruno for quite a long period of time. It's been a nice surprise this year, and Capuano. Look, there's many that'll argue that nothing could be maintained at the status where Gordon was losing and all that stuff, and pointing towards it took them a while to even break out of a slump with Capuano. You just can't fault coaching change to begin with. I mean, those guys, again, they were crying in the locker room almost on a daily basis. He lightened it up. He definitely got something out of these guys, and they responded. There are more people now. People usually gave the cursory, I want to play here answer. These guys are talking about each other and the team like they love being here now. Not just like, it's a nice place to play, but, where you could actually tell they mean it, which we're not used to seeing. So, Capuano, right guy for the job. If nothing else, a stopgap, but not a detrimental stopgap. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I said it a few weeks. I said it a few weeks ago, and it was good to see that they didn't. People were saying, well, why didn't they interview anybody else? Do you really want to interview somebody? Let's just forget about now on their third coach in 2 seasons. But do you really want to interview somebody and not have your whole heart into interviewing them, or it gets out that you did? The meetings, they just make stuff and run with it. And like 2 hours later, you get the truth out of the Islanders when they finally have to say something. And if you interviewed somebody and then it's reported that they made a contract over to them and they got turned down, and then you went back to Capuano because you can't get anybody else. It was definitely the right maneuver on a whole bunch of levels.
Yeah, I think so. I don't know. I don't know who the candidates are that you could even ask to come in. There's nobody out there that's got a significant enough track record, I don't think, that would warrant the possible divisiveness of the team again, where Capuano's not that. His guys at Bridgeport love playing for him. These guys love playing for him. They began to play for each other. There's really not much more you can do with that. You're letting some natural talent take over, and these guys to grow. And the confidence is everything. You can do it. You can do it. You can do it. Try this. Go. Don't fear anything. Just play. And you got those guys to buy into that big time. And for that, we got a significantly entertaining second half of the season. So
definitely.
I'll sign up for more of the same.
So the last thing with Capuano was his conference call, which for some reason everybody's shocked that the Islanders want to release the details of his contract, which they never release any sort of details anyway. But I thought it was interesting when they started talking about the free agents and how, because Capuano, I'm not sure if he was saying that they don't need anybody to come in, or they do need if they're 1 or 2 plays away, if they're Mark Street and a Kyle opposed to a whole season away, or if he's looking for them to bring in more free agents. It was kind of ambivalent with how Capuano said it, and Seven Foreman/D couldn't really get a further questioning. There's only so much you can ask, and I really don't see them bringing in anybody big via free agency. The top 6 are set for next season. And then you're adding Nino to that.
Right.
The defense has 6 people signed right now, and then you have other guys. You have too many defensemen as it is. So I don't see goalies. You have Poulin, Miko, Montoya, and DP now. So you can't really make a move there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to start the season, and if how much of if Capuano was saying he wants to see some free agents brought in, the type of free agents that are brought in to start next season.
Right. And if you look, there was mentioned in Seventh Woman's article, I think, about his signing, or his press conference rather. That there was a little bit of back and forth about things we might need versus things we don't. Where he seemed almost a little uncomfortable talking about what the needs of the team might be, and kind of chalked it up to let Garth do his thing. So who knows what kind of plans are there? But there is a bit of a logjam, and but the nice thing is with depth like this and with picks to play around with, if the right move comes along for some cash-strapped or cap-strapped teams, that pick. Or 5th overall, or a package of players or prospects can be moved for a solid or above average roster player, immediate roster player. So I think that's where some people are thinking they may try and move a pick, but it has to be the right move. You don't want to take a chance at this point. You want somebody established. I think we're almost done with taking chances with guys like Molson and Parenteau and Grabner even. It's not necessary as much anymore. The roster's pretty full, so it's adding parts. And unless you can make a significant addition, keep it that.
Oh, I agree. It'll definitely be interesting to watch how the moves they make. I don't think they're done though with the Molson, Parento. Even during Molson, you can say. 2 years ago, nobody wanted to offer him a 2-year contract, so. I don't think they're done with the cheap free agents if they can get them, because it's worked so far. If Kenny Morrow sees a guy, just go for Kenny Morrow things, because all these moves are just insane how well the signings have gone. The other big news for the week is Bingham is out at Bridgeport, and one of the most confusing moves I've seen. He was even less responsible for that team falling apart than Gordon was. The injuries, the Islanders kept loading the team up with amateur tryouts, which you tend to have there's 3 different levels of amateur tryouts until you have to sign a guy. So they kept signing different guys to 10-game contracts in an 80-game season. As they went over 60 players, they had a lot of guys for 1 or 2 or 3 games too. They went through 16 defensemen. Joe Martin started the season. I just checked this morning. He started the season in the CHL. Sebastian Thinnell, Odessa. I thought he had started in Kalamazoo. He worked his way up from Odessa to Kalamazoo to Bridgeport to the NHL for the 1 game he didn't appear in, and then was back in the AHL starting when Mikko got hurt. It's kind of sad to see them blame Bingham. Or at least if you're gonna make him step down because he was an interim coach. At least keep him around. It sounds like from everything Jack said, Jack loved him. A lot of people liked him. At least keep him around in the organization.
Well, yeah, that is what you'd think. He was a piece of Capuano's staff, who I'm sure he was allowed to hire down at Bridgeport. Obviously, he was promoted. I was looking at something Bernabrio from the Connecticut Post wrote, and Bingham's record theoretically wasn't terrible given what he had to do. It was 24-30, 4-7, shootout losses, overtime losses, what have you. Given what you were saying about the ATOs, the call-ups, the depleted roster, amazing that he did as much as he did. And then towards the end of the season, Fornabrio posted a stat from March 13th to April 10th, where this is where we started getting some guys back into Bridgeport, from our real ATOs, the guys that we had signed in college and things like that, and some guys back from injury. 9-3, 1-2 in his last 15 games. Not bad at all. That's 15 games, 30 points, 9, 18, 19 points, 21 out of 30 points in the last month of the season. Really not bad. But he did have a disaster run from January to March of 3-22, 2-3. And that's really not going to get it done.
and at least on the bright side of things, not for him at least, but for the Alma fans, is that run at the end of the season was due, like you were saying. We got in Ness, Donovan, Shane. I think Shane didn't play in the AHL, but Ness, Donovan, and a bunch of upcoming prospects from college who were about to graduate were part of the team turning around towards the end of the season.
Right, and a couple of guys also signed up from other junior places. Bidlevsky, Nygam. Not that Nygam. Neither of those guys really brought a whole lot of offense, but Bidlevsky looked like he was just going to be a fighter guy, and he actually played pretty well to the tune of a plus, I believe, towards the end of the season, and was pretty nasty in his fights. A lot of knockouts, literal knockouts. Drop a guy with a punch. There was a lot of additions. Who's the other? I think there was Brian Day had about a half point a game or a point a game.
Yeah, he had a strong finish just about all the. Because I know from going through the box sheets, just about all the youngsters graduating from college seemed to get a point every other game or so. So they had, for the team, for as bad as they were struggling offensively, for a bunch of guys who, coming from college to be that well on be that good on a team that's just been so awful it's a promising sign. Especially for Day, who he started the season really hot when he was playing against weak competition, and then once they got into the meat of the schedule, he really started to disappear down towards the end of the season.
Yeah, it's I forget what team was he from again?
It took me a little bit to remember too. Colgate.
Okay. Yeah, well, not exactly a powerhouse, but it's a relatively low-scoring league.
He actually, I think he is in the top 10 all-time points for Colgate, something along those lines.
Right. Yeah, so, some nice additions, and, and towards the end of the season, obviously, he found a way to get Colleton and Rakshani together, and those guys both exploded points towards the end of the year. So, again, it is a bit surprising that it happened. I think the bigger surprising thing for me, and this is kind of true to, Islander media form, is that nowhere does it say anything about it. There's nothing on the Sound Tigers website. On the Sound Tigers website, they have that Capuano was made, or the interim tag was listed, and he is now the full-time coach. Same thing on the Islanders official website, but nothing here. It does say Fornabrio again kind of tells us that it looks like the rest of the staff, Bingham's coaching staff, will probably remain on. But again, confusing. Generally speaking, and again, it's the AHL, it's not the main team, so I don't expect a whole lot of press. But the way they touted the idea that Capuano and Gordon work together, and the system's the same back and forth, and things like that, you would almost expect some kind of press release. We thank Bingham for his time and being the interim coach, except that we did not think this is the direction to go in right now. Something to that effect, but there's nothing. There's no links to anything from the things from the website, including the Fornabrio articles and the slight Katie Strang article about a paragraph that they will not be bringing him back, and he assumed the blah blah blah. He assumed the reins. So Again, shocking but not shocking. But you would almost expect some level of a Garth Snow statement that we don't get. And, how that position will now be filled, who's interviewing for it, if there's going to be that continuity, is Capuano going to have part of that decision-making process? We're all up in the air, I guess. But what we do know is that we did see a couple of different guys behind our benches that we weren't expecting this year, right?
Wait, weren't expecting to see? Not coming on now. We were expecting to see Doug Waite hanging up behind the bench. Now, Eric Collins might be a little more interesting not expecting to see him behind the bench. I still wouldn't expect him to be a head coach. To me, it's even a stretch making Doug Waite the head coach in the AHL just because of the lack of head coaching experience, and just to sort of jump right into the fire would be surprising.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And however, I don't know how often. All right, Cairns is a scout, right, or is he player development? I mean, I saw on one of Chris Botta's SNY TV things where they were interviewing. Well, they were doing some fan questions and discussion with Compton and Botta. They had mentioned a couple of other guys that I had forgotten we had as scouts or player development people. One being Jeff Sanderson. Remember good old Joff? Geoff?
I was about to say, did you mean Jeff or Joff?
Yeah,
I remember
Joff. However you pronounce that. I thought it was Jeff with a funky spelling. But yeah, Jeff Sanderson's one. Jeff Sanderson's a very good player for the Whalers, and I think also once the Whalers moved to Carolina. And then there was another one.
And just interesting while you're thinking about that, I just brought up Scott Gordon's coaching record. Mm-hmm. 3 seasons as an assistant in the IHL. I'm not going to go through each team. 2 seasons as a head coach in ECHL. 3 seasons assisting in the AHL of the Bruins. And then 5 seasons of head coach as the Providence Bruins in the AHL, all before he got to the Islanders. So you just to give an idea of where a player can come from. Obviously, he wasn't as good of a player as that Waite was, but that's still you still see them go through some time in the lower leagues.
Yeah, but that's what I was getting at. I mean, how often? And again, I could be completely wrong, but how often do you have the scouts on the bench or the player development people actually on the bench at any level? And that's what makes me think there's some level of grooming going on there. Doug Waite too. I mean, the Islanders get a little bit beat up for, and somewhat justifiably beat up for, Kevin Connolly behind the bench. Doug Waite, good guy, obviously. Grooming him for a position, it's strange without really, again, some kind of press release. Doug Waite interested. The idea it's always left to be a little bit speculated upon, and I guess that's the bigger problem.
They did sort of release that though about his interest in coaching.
Right.
Way back in November, December.
But did they, or was that strange kind of? I mean, and again, is she the mouthpiece for the team? There's nothing really, team website wise.
No, that was the team website.
Oh, okay.
Back in December, he was talking about how because he didn't know how long he was going to be out, he was taken to the ice again to help coach the Islanders power play because it was awful at the time. I think it was it was an article back on December 20th or so.
Okay.
But then they went quiet on him. The whole Doug Waite missing almost the whole season, and not hearing anything about it until the last 2 games of the season when they finally go, he's going to be out for the rest of the year.
Right.
Well, it was kind of odd, but they definitely mentioned. He said he was interested in coaching. He was enjoying his time coaching, working with the Islanders power play. So they did release that on the team website. I don't think they released anything saying he wanted to be a head coach, but he did say he was enjoying his time as helping the power play unit.
Just brought up a tweet from @Matt Molson. Says guy tried to hand me a Go Rangers towel. I laughed in his face. Attaboy, Matt.
Gotta love Matt.
Guess he's at the game. Excellent. Sorry to go off topic there. I just thought that
that's great.
Tidbit for people to see. Yeah. So who knows? Not that either guy I think would be a bad coach either. It does seem that Eric Cairns is highly regarded by players. They seem to be interested in what he has to say, which is given his NHL play, you're almost surprised that he has that level of influence, or at least I'm almost surprised. Maybe I shouldn't be. He definitely was somewhat of a leader and a good team guy, protecting his teammates and stuff like that. But always interesting when you can have a guy like him mean something. His word means something to a guy who is a 100-point player in juniors. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, and it's definitely interesting because this is always fun to bring up. I mean, he was Capuano's babysitter when he was on Long Island, which we were having all sorts of fun imagining what was going on there. But Capuano, I think I mentioned this last week, so I'll do it real quick. He was nominated he was one of the nominees for the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League's Humanitarian of the Year award. So apparently Eric did something great with Capuano because all those rumors, and between the rumors and the injuries, really caused him draft position, which is why he fell. So congrats Capuano, and congrats whatever Eric Kahn did to him.
Now I guess he didn't win yet, or is that award not win at all? Is that award completed? Do we know?
I would guess when the season's over. My guess is when the season's over. The playoffs are over, which they aren't yet for the OHL and CHL and all those leagues.
Right. Okay. Mark, I was able to dig up the player development list here. Cairns, Jeff Sanderson, and Trent Klatt. The three former NHLers that had some decent years in there.
I don't remember Trent. I remember Jeff Sanderson and Eric Kahn, but I don't remember Trent Klatt at all. You're gonna have to. Who is Trent Klatt? Now I'm interested.
Let's look that up. I forget who
you got
for. I feel like maybe the Flyers.
With a name like it does sound like it with a name like Klatt.
Let's see. Hold on, coming.
I got it. Okay. He played for the Flyers. He played about
Kings and the North Stars.
About 800 games, 350 points. Wow, how do I not know this guy at all?
Well,
my memory.
He's kind of old. No offense. No offense, Trent. But yeah, he was born in 71. 89 entry draft. So if you only started following hockey in 93. Well, that's actually when he was getting started. Yeah, and he played in our division. So,
my memory is concussions. That's all I say.
Hey, another guy who played 800 games. That's you got three guys in there that are doing pretty well. As far as having NHL careers.
Development. If you look at the development of the Islanders players, somebody was actually asking me this morning about the blue chips for the prospects. What blue chip prospects the Islanders have, and you really don't know beyond. You have Nino, you have Calvin Dehan, and you have oh crap! You have Nino, you have Calvin Dehan, and you have somebody else who's just totally. The first round pick. Oh, Brock Nelson. Mm-hmm. And Brock is just. You have to realize that North Dakota was. He would play for North Dakota as a true freshman, and North Dakota spent the whole year in the top number 1 and number 2 team in the whole nation. That's something else. But beyond those three, you have just a lot of interesting cases where these guys show just great flashes of ability, flashes of being able to take over games. You can always point to moments, even for Miko, who struggled. You can point to game after game during the season where he's had like a 45 or 48 save night for Bridgeport. The Anders Lee, all the Rookie of the Week, Rookie of the Month awards. Casey Suzakis just dominating with Mishawaka, and then his penalty kill at the World Juniors. The list just keeps going on and on. Even when he started getting towards the bottom, you say, Tony DeHart, he's looking like he might have been a steal with the Islanders. Got him. He's just one of those silent but steady guys. He doesn't get hurt. He might actually, in the long run, be steadier NHL defenseman than Calvin turns out, which will be interesting. And where you have a lot of Capuano is also taken over the playoffs. You have a lot of these interesting cases where they're not blue chip prospects, but you don't know where they're going to fall in the long run. But it's a lot. I mean, it's a lot more fun than watching what I remember from beforehand with the Islanders prospects, where it seemed to be the only news you ever got was just the first round picks.
Yeah, that they were traded.
Yeah, that they were traded. Yeah, that too.
They were traded before they reached their potential. Yeah. Well, yeah, this is obviously much better, and I would say at this point it doesn't look like we have a whole lot of blue chip prospects. We have a lot of prospects, a lot of them that look like they may contribute at some level or another. Most of our blue chippers are playing already. Fortunately or unfortunately, but our blue chippers were really they were Josh Bailey, they were Kyle Okposo, they were John Tavares. We're not going to be seeing much of these blue. A lot of these guys were gamble guys that we took. Of course, we don't want playing in the league at 17 and a half, 18 years old, whatever he was when he had to go back. And looked a little lost. So he's become blue chip. If you're looking at hockey futures, we had two guys on the top 50 prospects. Nino overall number 7, and I think the other one they listed was Hamonic. I believe he was around 15, but obviously he's an NHLer now. I can't really view the Islanders sending him back down, it appears Bingham and Capuano have fallen out of the top 50.
It's hockey's future. It's nice. It's nice to take a look at it. Just don't take it seriously.
Yeah.
And the Hamonic thing is weird because he's obviously an NHLer, and somebody's not coming back in the defense that's under contract because they're keeping Hamonic up on the NHL level. That's not even a question.
No, absolutely not. It would be a huge step back for him to put him back there. And honestly, I think Wishup's earned a chance at the starting lineup. He and Hamonic played very well together. They did not look out of place, and they anchored our D after McDonald was gone. So I think I wrote this a little earlier today over at Lighthouse Hockey. I look for Garth to try and move Motto and Eaton. I don't see the need for either. They're not significant enough upgrades over what we have to justify not playing the kid there. Or even paying, really. Is Eaton a huge upgrade over Wisher? It doesn't seem like it to me, personally.
I think Motto gets bought out because he's only, like I said last week, because it's only he doesn't even make that much money anyway. He's probably gonna get put out, or they're gonna waive him and send him down to Bridgeport for the year. Eaton, I guess Eaton would depend on Martinick. If they keep Martinick around for another season, then you really don't need Eaton because I would keep Eaton just for the leadership and just for being a veteran defenseman. I mean, if Eaton's third pairing, he's probably a step up on Javares, and he's probably about as good as Hillen anyway. So if he's third pairing and not getting that many minutes, but he's still there for what he can add to the team. Outside of that, because, Pittsburgh, for some reason, Pittsburgh just loves the guy, which is something I've never gotten. I mean, I would hear the broadcast from the Pittsburgh announcers, they always talk about how great it was to have Eaton around and how they miss him, but sometimes you just gotta let guys go. So he brings intangibles to the field that aren't directly noticeable.
Intangibles at this point, I think, for this team are also becoming a bit overrated. Honestly, we needed intangibles this year, and he didn't bring any after he left with injury. I don't foresee needing those intangibles too much in the future. Now that everybody's got some time under their belt, we'll be getting Strike back. Who you're going to play him over Hillen? Hillen had a great resurgent second half. You're not going to play him over Yurcina's size, really, to me, and cannon of a shot. Yurcina and Hillen as a unit looks pretty good. I think you keep him for depth at best, but he's not going to want to be a guy that goes down to Bridgeport or sits in the press box. I would try and see what I can get for him. It's just really, I don't know. I didn't see all that much out of him. I'm sure he's better than what he showed earlier in the year because everybody was. That was just a horrible losing streak.
Interesting you mentioned Yurcina, because I was thinking, because he just mentioned Wishart too, and I think what happens is that Wishart starts the season in the AHL and is the first guy to get called up. And the first guy going down is going to be Jacina after. Let's put the prediction on this. I say if they play 6 games in the first 2 weeks of the season, Jacina is going to be down by the 5th game. I say. So I think that's what
down with injury or down with
injury.
Oh yeah, well
injury of course.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yes, well we average an injury every couple of minutes. So yeah, that'll make sense. But we do have some other guys now down at Bridgeport that we know can step into some significant roles. We saw Kotick play very well. We now have Donovan. Neff can fill over that small, fast defensive guy in Kotick Steed down at Bridgeport. So we do have some nice things. I mean, Gervais, I think most of us are convinced that he probably won't be re-signed unless he decides to accept a two-way offer or an assignment to Bridgeport. And even still, he's going to have to pass through waivers anyway, right? So, it is what it is at this point. I don't know. I just can't see at this point forcing a square peg into a round hole. When there's not a significant enough upgrade to be there. And honestly, I would almost expect Eaton, if he was relegated to the press box, to complain. The guy has played on championship teams. He probably wants to play. And I just can't see him justifying that much ice time.
It'll definitely be interesting to see the start of the season, and especially if they do bring in one more UFA defenseman to see how everything ends up going. Talking about that, the draft coming up, the number 5 pick. I'm still saying we need a winger. I mean, just now we have so many defensemen. Even if Street will probably be brought back next season. He'll probably be given a few more years. And then we still have McDonald's for a few more years, Hamonic, and then we have all the youngsters who are easy to keep around.
Yeah.
So, and the center, we are so stocked at center, it's not even funny. So I think, the wings are so thin. The wings are so thin behind. It's pretty much Nino, and that's about it on the wings.
Right.
We gotta grab him. I think we gotta grab a winger with the early pick.
Yeah, which always sounds good in theory, but again, I am best player available guy. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I mean, like we said, I think I expect this year for Snow to do a little bit of wheeling, dealing, moving forward, moving back, trading the pick outright, acquiring another pick, whatever the case for a roster player. It just, to me, it's not even so much that we need a wing. We need guys who can finish. We have, let's look at what this team looks like. Kyle Acosta, great player, not a heck of a good finish on him. Not putting pucks in the net, but definitely working his butt off, getting guys open, creating space for his teammates, working hard, causing turnovers, all those things, and playmaking. However, I'm sure all of us would rather see 20 goals out of him. Not everybody can just give assists. Somebody's got to put him in the net, otherwise the assists don't happen. And I think that's kind of what we're looking at with some of these guys. Parenteau also, same type of player, but Parenteau plays on the line with Tavares, who finishes, and Molson, who finishes. Not a bad idea. Grabner started to finish, so that works out for Acosta, but now you have 2 finishers on the line. Personally, I like the idea of 1 playmaker, 2 finishers, whenever you can get it. Not that it's easy, but you want 2 guys. Most of the time your center to be the playmaker with a lot of assists. Your 2 wings to be sniping goals or banging in dirty goals, and we don't have that throughout all 3 lines. Como is pretty good, strange player. Obviously, we all have our thing, but there's moments of feast and famine, beauty and ugly, and some orbits around the zone, but. Will he be reliable going forward? Is there an upgrade to be had? He's a guy that I think if Nino plays well, he becomes expendable. Personally,
I think what's interesting though, with Kyle, of course, is that he hits so many posts. I think it's just a matter of time before he's. I mean, we've been saying this the last 2 seasons. But it's got to be just a matter of time before he starts getting them in the net. I mean, you cannot hit that many posts and just, and not seem to get them in the net.
Yeah, well, he should practice with bigger posts. No, no, obviously it is too many. It is far too many. It's not even an anomaly anymore. It's the norm, really, for him. He hits a heck of a lot of posts, and it gives you the idea that, yeah, he's beating goaltenders, obviously. The goalie's not touching it. It's getting past him. So that's a good sign. Not a great sign if it doesn't stop soon, unfortunately. And the shooting percentage has been pretty low over the last couple of years, around 7 or 8% or something.
Yeah,
like that.
Less than 1%.
That's not going to get it done. And not that he's a bad player. He's not. The couple of things I'd like to see out of Kyle a little more next year is a little bit more fire. I remember in the last game of the year, I think against Philly, he came over and he gave somebody a pretty good shove. And when he's in animal mode, he could be done. He could wear some anger. Anger is a gift, Kyle. Rage Against the Machine says so. Use it. Use it.
So you would say a winger too, then? Like if you were drafting, you would probably try to get. Would you get a winger or the best player available?
I would go best player available, but I would be looking for a goal scorer or Larson. I mean, this guy is generational, better than Hedman talent. And again, I'm not overly familiar with the prospect. It's very hard, obviously, as you know, in the States to find good quality footage of these guys. But if he's the guy everybody says he's supposed to be, the nice thing is, again, there's a lot of guys out there. The problem is the more you read, the better everybody sounds. Compares to Dennis Podman, compares to Scott Stevens, compares to, Steve Yzerman. And it happens every year. And they sit there going, oh, yeah, geez, Steve Yzerman and Dennis Podman wouldn't be bad on this team. That'd be great. And that's how you start to think. It's not like they sit there and they're like, and they really overly pick apart the flaws because they're trying to sell the kids. They're trying to keep a business going and get these kids drafted. And I'm sure they're lovely at that level. So you can never really tell where they're going to go. But I think more so than, again, like I said, more so than wing versus center versus defenseman is guys who put the puck in the net. So that being said, you look at a guy like Nugent Hopkins, who they keep saying is a playmaker. He's got about 30 goals in the juniors this year, which is a nice number, but he sounds more playmaker than finisher. So I'm not sure he's the right guy. You want the guy who's gonna snipe some stuff because we already do have those playmaker guys here.
See, I think a big issue is just with the team in general. Like you were saying about playmakers versus snipers, but I think it's another thing of just players who are going to force their way into the zone, and that's where the value of Parento came around, is that he would take the puck and it into the offensive zone and help to get everything established for JT and Wilson to do their thing. And it's not just it wasn't just a problem for every line basically had that problem all season long, except for the first line, which as the season went on and Parento, Wilson, and Tavares clicked. But it's on the power play too, where they dump the puck into the zone and the puck. We went over 1,000 different ways about what's wrong with the power play, but it comes up so much during the season, where I think if you can get somebody. Who can drive the play, get the puck into the zone, get stuff set up, help establish the team in the zone. I mean, I don't know how many Philly games you happen to watch, but it's it's such night and day between the two teams, because I'll watch and it'll be amazing watching them passing the puck. It's a 5-on-5, passing the puck, keeping the puck in the zone for 2-3 minutes at a time, gives the goaltender a break. You're putting pressure on them, and it's just something you see rarely. But when the Islanders do get set up in the zone, it's almost like you know that a goal is going to happen just because of how talented everybody is when they do have to get to that point.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think again, you're missing Strite this year. We lost Wisniewski to trade in the beginning of the year, and then McDonald stepped up, and all of a sudden McDonald and Hamonic really ended up with quite a bit of points in the second half of the season, averaging almost like a half a point a game the second half of the season might have been more than that, but both of those guys were around 0.4 to 0.5 points per game on the season. So the second half, once Wisniewski left, those guys kind of lit it up. doing just that. So I expect that there's going to be some evolution of them adjusting and doing some of that too. You get strike back. Hillen looked good doing it sometimes, although it's a different, strange way of doing it. Hillen will rush it all the way behind the net and then pass out with an offensive guy covering the point for a couple seconds. But we saw some of that, and Kotick really did the same thing towards the end of the year. They were the first guy in with the puck, dump it in and chase it down themselves. Which is some of the things we saw under Gordon, actually, which was sometimes confusing. It just looked like they played it a little better under Capuano towards the end of the season. But yeah, I understand what you're saying. It's that possession, that puck possession stuff. Missing Macposo, I think, it was also a problem towards the beginning of the year. And again, not that he was finishing, but being a guy on the half boards and on the point is a good thing for him. He can dig pucks out. But when you're talking about guys like Bailey being the established net presence, that's a problem. The only guy who really does the net presence thing on this team is Molson right now. He's the guy that stands in front to get a beating. Tavares will do it too, but you don't want him there. You want Tavares about 5 to 10 feet out, 10 to 15 feet out. You want him behind the net on the power play. You want him to be able to be creative, walk around, snipe from where he needs to snipe around from. And various experiments have worked that way this year with trying to figure out who that guy is going to be. We thought it was going to be Como. It's not. We thought it was going to be Alposo. It's really not. Those guys are not the guys. Bailey actually did a better job in my mind than Alposo and Como standing in there and taking a beating. He just isn't that good at it either. It's not. Well, and it's playing to your strengths. And the problem is we don't have the one strength we're looking for, is that net presence thing. But if Bailey's the guy taking a beating in front, he's obviously not the distributor that you drafted him to be, and you want to use him for. That guy was drafted not to put in 40 goals a year. He was drafted to pass to Alposo, so Alposo can put in 40 goals a year. So that's the idea. And Josh definitely showed some nice hands down there at times. But is that where you want him? I wouldn't think so. So I think, again, you get a big guy that you can stand in there on first or second power play unit, and we'll be in good shape. Now, Nino hopefully projects to be that guy.
I just looked him up to double check. I knew he was big. I just couldn't remember how big he was. Mm-hmm. He's 6'2", 205, and he does. I mean, he has some beautiful. Of course, if you Google him, all he uses shootout stuff. But he's great down. He's really good down low.
This is Nino you're talking about now.
Nino, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and but again, you want a 19-year-old down there taking a beating. With Chris Pronger's elbows in his face next season. You know what I mean? There's some growing pains that you expect there, but you don't want to send the kid into a heavy responsibility of being like a first line power play guy to get cross checked in the neck. It's something I would rather ease him into. Not playing necessarily against division rivals in that scenario. So it is what it is. I think we need a couple more Nino types in theory. That can skate, can stand there, will not get knocked off the puck, will not die when they're cross-checked. We'll see where we go with that. But that sounds like Landeskog. But we'll see.
I'm always up for more Nino type. I mean, first rounders, hey, if you can get a Nino type in the 7th round, a Nino type in the 6th round, I'm fine with that too. Yeah. As long as he can pull the rabbit out of the hat, that's as long as Goff can somehow pull that rabbit out of the hat, I'm not going to complain there.
Oh no, absolutely not. And honestly, the Landeskog thing does sound good in theory. Again, Nino, for as much as he's big and has great hands, he doesn't really have that much of a nasty streak. It doesn't seem like he does hit. He does, but is he going to be the guy that's throwing elbows and swinging sticks at Pronger and Corsillo and the like? You know what I mean? Matt Curl, all those guys. Letang, Orpik, is he going to be able to stand in there and
hopefully
be able to defend himself against those types of guys?
So here's always been my argument until he got too insane with the Islanders getting beat up, is that hopefully the Islanders power play improves to the point where you can't take these liberties with them because you're letting the power play go out there and score a goal. And That's the best hope. You know, let's be hopefully they keep Zenit around too, and Trevor for the Flyers games. So.
Oh, absolutely. And and I guess the one thing that we didn't talk about there is the possibility of using Matt Martin on that in that role, who has shown a fearlessness of going in there and has shown some decent hands, and has also shown that he can't be moved really. To this point, it really shocks me that they haven't tried it more. I mean, they almost seem to use Yoensu more in that role.
I think that's because in the long run of things right now, Yoensu's so close to, are you going to keep him or are you going to give up on him? And Matt Martin looks like even if he ends up just being a fourth liner, Matt Martin looks like he's going to be with the team a while, a lot longer than Yoensu right now. So I think Matt Martin's looked good when he's done it, but they're also trying Yoensu to see if he fits with the team at all.
Right. Yeah, well,
all right.
We will see.
Yep. All right. Thanks. Any last thoughts, Keith?
No, that's about it. Thanks for everybody who tuned in. This should be up on the Lighthouse Hockey main page in a little while for those who might want to tune in and comment. Feel free to leave comments, questions. We'll try and answer anything we can in the comment section before episode 2. Or is this episode 3?
Episode 2, technically I started at 0 for the tryout show.
Oh, well, all right. I'll have to rename it, but thanks for anybody who tuned in today, and again, we'll try and do a little better with this as far as getting this up on the website a little bit earlier in the week so people can get us questions a little more and more. Hopefully we're getting better. Please continue to send us your feedback and thoughts, and again, thanks for tuning in.
Thank you, everybody. Hope you have a good week.
Take care.